Hello, I'm Matt Galloway, and this is The Current Podcast.
We need welders, we need crane operators, we need electricians, we need builders like you. By 2033, less than a decade from now, we will need more than 1.4 million additional trade workers. 1.4 million. To build more homes for families, new transit lines for cities, and new hydro plants to power communities.
As Prime Minister Mark Carney speaking yesterday to the annual conference of Canada's building trades unions, he was speaking about the shortage of workers the country is facing in the skilled trades. Canada is also grappling with rising youth unemployment, and the solution to both problems, according to the Prime Minister, is what he is calling the Team Canada Strong program, announced in the spring economic update earlier this week. It's a 5-year plan worth $6 billion to help recruit, train, and hire young people into the skilled trades. Joella Fletcher is a carpenter apprentice and chair of the Youth Apprenticeship Council. It's an advocacy group made up of apprentices from across the country. She is on her job site in Cambridge, Ontario. Joella, good morning.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Why did you want to be a carpenter?
I became a carpenter when I was in high school, so it was never originally my plan to. But I didn't want the debt of university when I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And I wanted financial stability, and I wanted to be able to stay close to home in case my family needed me. So I decided to start looking for a blue-collar job because I knew that I could get paid right away and have that stability that I was looking for.
What do you love about the work that you do?
So I actually do a lot of heritage work or affordable housing and sustainable building. So for me in particular with the job sites I do, I like making a difference in the buildings that I'm making, whether it's making a homeowner's dream come true, building sustainably, or helping to build affordable housing for the people that need it the most.
That's great. You mentioned not wanting the debt of university. One of the things that we often hear is that there has been this stigma around the trades because the assumption from a lot of people is, or has been for a long time, you should go to university. That's going to be the path to get a good job. Did you ever get that kind of pressure from family or friends or anyone like that?
I definitely had some comments from different people. I'd like to say like nothing too negative. I would also like to note that even myself gave my own decisions some doubt. I often wondered if I was making the wrong decision by going into the trades rather than university, because that was always my plan. And that's what all my other peers were doing when I was in high school. So I did feel nervous to go into the skilled trades rather than go to university, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So it also didn't make sense to take out a bunch of loans and risk getting an education in something that I wasn't really going to fall in love with. And again, that's not me knocking university. We need people to go to university, but we need people to go into the trades too. Like, I just see them both as equal options. And for me, the skilled trades is just what made the most sense.
What's it been like on the job site? And I ask that in part because one of the other stigmas that people talk about, and we've talked about it a lot on this program, is that for women, for example, on what could traditionally be a male-dominated site, it can be uncomfortable and worse than uncomfortable. What's it been like for you?
I don't know if I want to call it luck or not, but I have had amazing coworkers. I've had amazing trades professors and high school teachers, and especially my family. My family's been very supportive of this. So for the most part, I've had a really great experience with getting the support I need. But I will say I have had certain coworkers not see me as the new apprentice on site. They saw me as the new girl on site. So when it comes to being a girl on site, you can definitely run into those challenges. But for the most part, I definitely say it's been more positive than negative.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
We know that only, 1 in 5 apprentices complete their certification within the expected time frame. Why do you think people are dropping out?
I think that there's multiple reasons. A reason that I'm hearing with my work on the Apprenticeship Council across Canada is in big part a financial barrier. There are a lot of tradespeople that are excellent tradespeople, but when it comes to completing the schooling and taking 8 weeks off or 9 weeks off to go do schooling, especially it depends on where you live. If you have to travel or if you have to go on EI, a lot of the time there's that financial barrier of not being able to have enough income to afford your rent, your groceries, your kids new shoes for school. Like a lot of tradespeople have families that they need to support. So a lot of the time I've heard that certain apprentices won't be able to go to their schooling because they can't afford to take the financial hit to do so. Or if they're in a remote part of Canada, having to travel and relocate for a certain amount of time, that can be a really big barrier as well.
Do you think that what the federal government has proposed, one is the giving apprentices something like $400 a week while they attend the in-class training. The other is giving employers up to $10,000 to help subsidize wages during the first year of an apprentice's time on the job. Do you think that will make a difference in terms of what you're talking about?
So when it comes to the wage subsidizing for employers themselves, to be honest, I'm not really sure. I think that will be helpful to employers. But as an apprentice, I don't really know how many times I've had another apprentice tell me that they've seen that money help them specifically. Whereas the option to have a financial top up on top of EI when you're in schooling, I think that can be really beneficial and really helpful, but it depends on how these investments actually reach apprentices on the ground. So if it's getting to them in time, whereas EI hasn't always been able to do that. So will that extra top up reach apprentices when they need it? That I want to see how the implementation of these proposed incentives will actually get into the pockets of apprentices. That's what's important to me.
What about chopping the length of time it takes to get a Red Seal certification in half? That's this other proposal that has been made. Is that going to help, do you think?
Yeah, so I have mixed emotions on this. I totally see wanting to get more people onto the job site and more people into Red Seal certifications, but I also don't want to take away the value of the time it takes to know your trade and learn your trade.
Because you learn it over that time, right?
Exactly. So for me, cutting the hours down and the schooling down takes away from learning opportunities. So I'm sure other apprentices would have a different opinion. But for me, our trades are so vast, especially like for me, I'm a general carpenter. General is so vast and there's so much to be learned and understood. And there's so much learning that comes after you get your Red Seal. But the apprenticeship itself, to me, it's so important that you are given the time to train and learn and do your training.
Let me just ask you a couple of quick things before I let you go. One is there are young people who are listening who are like you. They might be in high school and they're thinking, I don't know what I want to do. I'm not sure what the path is. And I don't know whether university is the way I should go, college, should I go into the trades? What would you say to them about the trades? They may have the doubts that you had. What would you say to them?
When I was in high school, I did high school co-ops, and that was what set me on my path. So if you're in high school and you have a co-op program at your school, I highly recommend that you do a co-op. And to be honest, this ties not just into the trades, this ties into anything. Co-op will get you boots on the ground experience in any job position if you find a placement. And that helped rule out a lot of options for me that I wasn't interested in by giving me a look into them. And same thing for my peers.
If I talk to you again in 5 years, where do you want to be?
Well, I definitely plan to be licensed, hopefully next year, get my Red Seal. From there, I'm really excited to see what opportunities come my way. I've also thought about teaching. When you get your Red Seal, you can go into teaching. So I've definitely thought about teaching high school shop classes so that I can help the younger generation see what options are in front of them. We'll see what happens. I might stay on site too and keep working away, but I'm excited to see what comes in the next 5 years.
You have a great future ahead of you, and it's great to hear the enthusiasm you hear about the work that you're doing. Joella, thank you very much.
Of course, thank you.
Joella Fletcher is a carpenter apprentice and chair of the Youth Apprenticeship Council. We reached her on the job site in Cambridge, Ontario. Part of the federal government's announcement this week was about supporting employers as they try to recruit people into the trades. Martin Sosha is a vice president at SurePoint Group. This is an industrial contracting company based in Alberta. He supports this idea of the federal government helping companies like his to top up wages for apprentices, specifically during their first year.
The development piece would be really good, like helping top up pay would be great. I think industry as a whole needs to do a better job as well, so it shouldn't all be coming from the government. Companies like SurePoint Group, the clients that we work for in oil and gas and other verticals, they need to step up and start paying apprentices and trying to develop talent that way as well. But I'm really hopeful.
Tricia Williams is Director of Research at the Future Skills Centre. It's an independent research group. It focuses on the future of work, funded in part by the Canadian government. She's with me in our Toronto studio. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
The Prime Minister calls this initiative, in his words, a serious, urgent plan to get more young Canadians trained and on job sites faster. What stands out to you about what the government has announced?
I think the boldness of the ambition. I say, Red Seal is the highest level of certification we have in Canada for tradespeople. And they're committing not only to the recruitment part, but saying we want to see that those people get through to the actually finishing and getting that certification finished.
Part of this is necessary because of the urgency that the Prime Minister has spoken about. We've talked on this program about the shortage in trades workers. What does that shortage look like? Where are the gaps?
Yeah, I think the thing about the shortage in the skilled trades is it's coming from multiple pressure points. So it's coming from the need to build housing, but it's also coming from our climate ambitions and the need to, build industrial carbon capture plants. And then we're also seeing now with the major projects and talking about ports and infrastructure and defense funding. So it's really kind of a perfect storm of demand from multiple places. And you could have competition between these goals for the same tradespeople. And that's why this announcement is so important.
That sounds like it's all across the country then.
It is. I mean, it'll be regionalized what trades you need where, but we are seeing widespread demand.
I mean, the other part of this is that we have seen housing development, particularly new starts, condos, things like that, slow down dramatically. Are there still jobs available for people who might want to think about getting into the skilled trades?
I mean, this is the tough part, right? Because you could be a person who said, hey, I just went through 3 months where it was hard to find some work. Overall, yes, there are still opportunities. The thing is, a lot of tradespeople don't have Red Seal certification, right? Red Seal lets you work anywhere in the country, and you might be, qualified someplace, or your guest said, they might have families or not be willing to move as much. So I think, we have to have some patience and understanding that there are going to be localized kind of disruptions. But overall, we do need that labor mobility, which Red Seal provides.
And you're connecting it with those larger projects, not just building homes, but also infrastructure, ports, military build-out, that kind of stuff.
I think it's all of it. I mean, I do think on the home building side, we've seen some policy changes and investments, and those projects aren't necessarily online yet, right? Building the more housing we need, that missing middle housing. So I do think we'll see more of that coming, but I can see that it is a little disruptive to people who maybe are going through some of those downturns right now.
You were listening to Joella talk there about the barriers that people face in terms of getting into this space. What do you see as the big barriers right now?
Yeah, I loved hearing her talk about it. And, this is some work that Future Skills Centre has done in partnership with the Building Trades Union that Prime Minister Carney was speaking at yesterday. We've done a lot of work to increase the recruitment of people into the skilled trades. So widening that funnel of people who are even considering it. But it is a really leaky funnel, right? So a lot of people will consider the skilled trades, and they might even take a little pre-course or say, hey, how do my skills match up with some of the opportunities? But we really find that especially when you go outside of the traditional groups who have gone to skilled trades. So Joella is a female woman, and, also, racialized folks, newcomers to Canada, Indigenous youth. These are groups that face a lot more barriers in getting in the skilled trades, including the financial ones she talked about. But also it could be things like transportation or mental health care or having a workplace that's welcoming you and your diverse background.
The financial thing is interesting. I'd read somewhere that it's not something that people think about, perhaps, unless they're in the skilled trades, but tools are a big part of this. You need to bring your own tools to many job sites.
Yeah, you do. And tools are a big, capital expenditure. If you're a stonemason, you have to have a whole set of tools. You also need a truck to drive your tools around in.
What about making sure that, and to Joella's point, that people, no matter who they are, feel comfortable on the job site? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I think this is why, we don't just need, marketing and saying to young people sign up for the skilled trades. It's also working with employers. So, in some job sites, I think we're past this now, but for instance, you can imagine 15, 20 years ago, they needed women's washrooms, right? You might not have had the facilities or gender neutral washrooms. You also need that culture shift of welcoming people. And I think, we've done that work with the Building Trades Union on really, and the unions want to do this. They want to adjust. They want their union halls to be more welcoming to different people.
Does that stigma still exist right now? It's the end of April. You have high school students who are getting set to, move on to whatever's next if you're at a higher grade, and they're thinking about what's next. Does that stigma around going into the trades still stick, do you think?
I mean, we've actually done research on this. So just last year, we asked a national poll of Canadians and how many would recommend the trades. And we see among older Canadians, like, middle-aged people like us. Not to presume. But, we tend to say yes. 70% of us are saying, we'd recommend the skilled trades to a young person versus 30% would recommend university. But amongst young people, it's only about half. So we do see that older Canadians are saying, you're going to get a good job. Like we see the opportunity here. But younger Canadians still need, I think, some convincing.
And what is it that they need to be convinced about? Is it about a pathway? Is it about pay? Is it what's the thing that's hanging them up?
A whole bunch of things, like Joelle is saying, like if the default assumption is university or college, like making sure that people say, this is a good life. This is gonna lead to quality jobs. And that's what I think this announcement partly signals is, there's a lot of cachet and credibility with being a Red Seal skilled tradesperson. And we want that to have value in our society. Keeping them in that field and not having, as you said, the funnel be leaky is a big part of this as well. Have a listen once again to Martin Sosha. He's with that contracting company, Alberta. He says that matching apprentices to employers is a big part of the challenge here.
Mentorship is huge, having a really good company culture where they feel accepted. Having a mentor that can teach them things along the way is critical. With our aging workforce right now, we have lots of people that are working really hard, but they don't have a lot of time for mentorship. We try to do our best around here. Being in the right environment, with the right company, with the right culture, with the right safety as well, I think is really, really important.
What do you make of that? Making sure that you get plugged into a workplace where, and it sounds like Joella's there, where you're supported and people want to bring you along.
Yeah, I mean, this in the work we did with Skill Plan and the Building Trades Union, we found that we could get people to signify their interest. Like we had over 50,000 people go to buildyourskills.ca to do a little pre-course or an assessment. And then in the last couple of years, we said, well, we need to really have apprentice liaisons. And that's that person who can say to somebody, hey, here's how you actually navigate this and connect you with the local Building Trade Council Union. Again, that's, I think, done best not just through a website or clicking on something or here's a program, but that personalized support, right? Because it is a complex system to navigate. And I think part of this announcement is modernizing that system and making it easier to navigate. But I do think, people want somebody to hold their hand through it and somebody they can ask questions to.
Prime Minister says that the shortfall is 1.4 million trades workers by 2033. That's what we need. How far can the announcements this week go in closing that gap?
I mean, it's a step in the right direction. And I think, again, they're aiming towards the highest level of certification.
Well, we haven't even talked about immigration, for example, which is a big part of this as well, right?
I would expect that there's probably, not that we're talking about this today, but, there's probably going to need to be some immigration approach as well. But there's also a whole bunch of other trades levels. Like, for instance, you could be certified at the provincial level and just not have the portability across Canada. And you're still a tradesperson. You're contributing to that 1.4 million, but you're not part of that 100,000 group, right? And we know that right now, young people are entering the trades at a lower rate than they're retiring. So we heard, from the business owner saying, we need to support the mentorship, which is why I think the incentives for the employers is such a critical part of this, incentivizing them to bring on apprentices and really having that training component.
I have to let you go, but if we don't get this right, what's at stake?
I mean, all of our ambitions, our growth, our goals as a country. So,
no small matters here.
No small matters. It's critical, and I think it's a great step in the right direction.
Tricia, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Tricia Williams is Director of Research at the Future Skills Centre. What is your experience being like in getting people into the trades? Are you in the trades? Did you face that stigma? If you're a parent or a teacher, how have you seen that play out? And what would get young people in particular into the skilled trades? You can email us, thecurrent@cbc.ca. You've been listening to The Current podcast. My name is Matt Galloway. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.